not collaborating. She's actively resisting.
Engage.
Citizens of Earth, gird your loins and open your minds. You have now willfully submitted to the Party for Prosperity and Supervillainy.
Cordial compilationities. Welcome to the 17th official episode of the Party for Prosperity and Supervillainy. I am known by many names, but today you may call me the Mad Cat, and you may have noticed, if you are paying attention to the screen, that I am joined by a super special guest who has joined us once before, and we will introduce her in just a little bit. Me in particular, you must give me in the third person, perhaps to proclaim the wonders of our most deviant and devious party. As he is now.
Let me see.
Minions didn't memo about disposing of him.
My profound apologies. I seem to be having a certain amount of connection issues. I think the heroes are out to get me again today. I don't know where we are. You were cutting in and out, so my apologies. But are we doing the part where I am introducing, or what is going on?
Yes. I was going to introduce you, and there he is, in the flesh, or at least the digital appearance of
Representation thereof.
That his minions have come up with.
But for those of you who have an interest, I am indeed the great and mighty Dr. Zodiac, mad cult leader, forward-looking visionary, and mixologist extraordinaire, here to show you light and truth as I perceive it. If you must use pronouns, feel free to use him, he, or my lord. We are here to observe, to discuss, to listen, and occasionally make some bloody sense out of this mad world. Oh, we're going to be having connection issues all day today.
Together. How to healthily process the
Let's bring it up again. Okay.
Since he's gone, you know what we'll do? Kabam! It's the article. No, the. Equally important, the article in that, the, because the is not a word. The is a word. The article is not capitalized.
Okay.
Lowercase the, capital M,
Right.
capital K.
Okay.
It's a thing. It's a thing. All right. So yes, I think we now have again.
When last I checked,
Is he back?
am here. Let's see if,
I can hear you. I can see you.
awesome. I can hear and see both of you, which is awesome. Oh, no. Now it's cutting again.
Also, a Richard Barcelona in the chat. Hello again, Rick. Nice to have you here. Thanks for sticking with us through the little flububs there. Zodiac. And then this day, you see, it's almost static.
Yeah, it's homophobic.
It's homophobic. It's transphobic. It's all the phobic. The only phobic that it is not is biphobic, because nothing is ever really biphobic,
True.
is it? The bi straight. Well, I was continuing to be sarcastic, sardonic with the situation, and being a little salty about how people say that biphobia doesn't exist. It does. Oh my god. Anyway, before I started to cut out again, did you want to pick back up where you left off, my dear doctor?
I am not even remotely certain as to where I left off in regards to where anybody might have heard me. But the last time I was speaking, at least in terms of what we do on the show, I was talking about making some bloody sense out of this mad world. Remind me to tell you about the dumbest thing I've ever heard a human being say in court this week. Oh, God's sakes. And it crapped out again. Okay, somebody tell all these people. Out.
So, all right. Can you hear me now? Good. Oh my god. This whole start is basically just a battle between Verizon and Sprint, except it's a battle between Cox Communications and what's the other one in town? CenturyLink? Yeah. I want CenturyLink. Fuck Cox. I mean, not that CenturyLink is honestly much better. I've heard
they're unionized.
I take it back. I would rather support them. Thank you very much. So, I'm just going to assume that none of what I said got heard. What we are going to be talking about today, because I couldn't hear how much Dave got through, we'll be having another language discussion. It will be one that, again, Dave may kind of feel like on the outside looking in on this situation, but as I was telling Lily before we started here, on the one hand, I feel a little bit bad about that. On the other hand, I also don't mind that Dave gets to sit here and mostly listen to me, and in this case, me and Lily talk about things that are not necessarily in his purview, especially if those things make him a little bit uncomfortable, just because he doesn't necessarily have any particular like personal stakes in the discussion.
Right.
And it's not that I want to torture Dave, even though it's very much, a villainy thing to do is wanting to torture people. But some of you may remember that what I originally wanted to call this show was Let's Get Uncomfortable. And that doesn't just count for other people, it also counts for me. And I can also say with honesty that this discussion is a little bit uncomfortable for me in places. Like, I feel fine about it until I don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's super it's really complicated. There are a lot of really personal feelings involved in the whole thing. It's a lot of miscommunication, like ships passing in the night, like people using the word one way to refer to one thing and then somebody else using it entirely differently and then just not connecting at all. Like there's a lot of baggage
and then
from this.
both of them independently using a word in a way that makes sense to them and their experience for a long time, and then suddenly bumping into each other. Like they passed like ships in the night, never
Right.
you know, never the two shall meet. And then another day in another port town,
Just,
they bumped into each other
right.
in one of the shops, and they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Excuse me. Yes, hello. I am this word." And they go, "Wait a second. I'm this word. How can you be this word?
Right.
What?" And hijinks ensue, but like less fun hijinks and more like, the world's on fire.
Yeah, not the kind of hijinks you want to ensue with the word lesbian involved.
Not super productive. But yes, that is actually, I can't remember if I actually mentioned it or not before I actually had sound again. The particular word that we're going to be talking about today, that's right, it's a language discussion. I'm talking about the word lesbian. It's yes, lesbian. Its linguistic origins, its evolutionary history, and we're also going to be casually observing its various contemporary usages and why this label routinely sees debate on how and about whom the word should be used, can be used. And I think it was about that moment that we realized I had no sound.
Yeah.
I think Dave is in fact back again. Oh,
I feel like we're tempting fate, but we'll see how it works.
Okay.
Yeah, this is
yes.
All about tempting fate.
This is going to be one of those fighting.
Were you being a smart aleck saying Kat seems to possibly be making a good point? Was that when I was still silent? You're hilarious. This is why I like having him come around.
Yeah, I mean, just cut whatever audio you want over the first.
And I saw a spinny symbol again, so I paused for a moment. Yes, good.
Yep, now I'm spinning.
I will provide my own captioning. So, spinny thing again. What I would be running the title card, but because of various technical difficulties, I will get. But if you saw the title of the video, you know that the title of the video is "A Lesbian by Any Other Name," which is, of course, a reference to the Bard, because I am an enormous Shakespeare violet by any other name, because it's another flower in place of the original line, which is a rose by any other name would smell just as sweet. That's right. I am going to wax poetic at you. And also, in fact, violets have for a long time been associated with lesbitronic love, and in the 20th century, early and kind of into the mid 20s, violets were used as kind of a covert signal between ladies, a covert signal of same-sex womanly wooing, if you were. That's right, I worked the word woo in. And any chance I and we're already having some pretty obscure references here.
Yeah.
Even though
Shakespeare's not obscure. He talked about this.
That's true. Not super obscure, but that reminds me for all of the Shakespeare-isms that we still use today, because there are a lot of them. He invented a lot of words. Well, him and all of the other persons who may or may not have works. It's a whole thing. But invented a lot of words. A lot of them are fun, like onomatopoeias, which are, words that sound like what the sound is. Kind of similar to Lewis Carroll on that. Her word, delightful though it is. Dave, do we have you again? Sometimes
think
you,
it's
sometimes
it
you.
doesn't have anything else.
Motion, things, stuff. I have no idea which one of us is having
It's not
this
a problem.
motion
I
issue.
don't think it's a.
I'll just sit here and look like I'm doing like buffering problem stuff things. Yeah. I have no idea what's going on. I apologize.
Every other word. I'm not actually.
Yeah. Pretty much. Okay. This will
All
be
right.
the episode where we both mess with each other in terms of like buffering.
Here's stall buffing. Hopefully things are smooth enough that you can vaguely hear what's going on. If not, oh no, I'll just have to redo the episode again and say, you can hang on again. It's horrible.
No,
It's
so
horrible.
am I. We're going to have to gather people and hang out. No.
Mm. No, it is.
If we must, of course, take a few moments to recognize that oftentimes we are not but well-spoken babes in the woods, sometimes well-spoken. We make mistakes.
Oh, God.
Say dumb shit, but that's right. You can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. I was trying to give us a little chance. Is it was buffering again? Oh my god. All right. Zodiac, do the thing.
Which thing?
The thing we say before we read from
Oh,
the
yeah,
other
that's
thing.
right. In that case, all rise and lean slightly to the left for the reading of the party manifesto.
Him. 1. Whenever possible, supervillains must treat others with kindness, civility, and one thing and what sort of day they've had.
2. Hate is hate and should be directed toward systems wicked and behaviors most foul, rather than toward individual persons and groups en masse.
3. Thoughtful deviation drives progress. Embrace your considerate deviance and let it guide you.
Mm-hmm.
4. Your thoughts are your thoughts and can never be taken from you. Your words said aloud and your actions in the world have consequences. Choose your words and actions wisely.
Number 5. The party will not shun the ignorant, but willfully is a crime of the highest degree. Rehabilitation must either be scheduled or performed on the perpetrator's own time.
6. The party, much like Socrates, knows for certain that they know nothing for certain, and reserves the right to refine and amend its manifesto on an ongoing basis.
And kind of in the spirit of that last one there, I have not a disclaimer per se, more a bit of context to the perspective intuition with. I will abridge my original onslaught of verbiage for your poor ears. Partially because we already got started a little bit late anyway, because technical difficult netting, and also because we have my dear Queen of Webs here today, and I would like to hear what she has to say on the matter. We had a little bit of interesting discussion before we appear. Here's where I'm coming from this situation, and just to give you like a baseline idea, if you have no idea what goes on in queer Twitter or any other online, it's not a drama. Twitter in general, yeah. There can be some lovely things on there. I've encountered so much lovely, wonderful queer shit. And I feel like over bad and the bad shit, at least for me. So this conversation routinely comes up, usually around Pride, which is this month. And that there is a fine line between who can call themselves a lesbian and who cannot, which general idea of the word is a lesbian is a gay woman, right? Basic idea. There you go. Once you kind of get into the nuance of it and down to like individuals, and you know, like slipperance or for not necessarily fully this or that in regard to gender and or sexuality, then it gets hairy, and a lot are very formed. Does not make it okay when you're being shitty to other people because bad shit happened to you. I understand. I would like you to get what you need and to talk about. We'll talk about it.
Right.
I've been watching too much Cat Black. That's a lie. There's no such thing. You can never watch too much Cat Black. So again, on the me personally side of things, and again, I will do my best to condense. Punch me in the face. Make myself a liar.
I'm not gonna punch you in the face on camera.
Okay, one moment. I'll turn the camera off so that she can punch me. Oh God, let me why? The off-camera abuse. All right.
You made me do it.
The beatings will continue until we're all.
Yeah. Are you going to tell me? Look what you made me do.
Yeah.
Why do you make me hurt you like this? Oh my God. The dark humor. And that's another portion of this whole damn thing is the dark humor between people who have similar experiences. Sometimes it went outside the context of the original kind of in-group joke, react badly to it, which fair.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not great to bring things on Twitter.
I spend a lot of time around first responders. Trust, I've seen humor darker than singularities.
All right. I know. I saw her raising her hand.
Oh my God! You can't.
Oh, it's
All right.
one of those.
I'm just gonna.
Okay.
So it's pretty bad. It's pretty heckin' bad right now.
Well, that sucks. Cat keeps cutting out.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Xerxes. All right. Thing before I cut out again. No.
Save.
This might not be tenable.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering if we maybe need to end and restart. If
here, let's go off mic real quick.
Okay. One moment, friends. Unfortunately, I don't have a. Please stand by.
Okay, we'll definitely need a please stand by.
Difficulty. I'm gonna throw that up. I'm gonna take us off mic for a moment. I promise we will return. If only in chat, we will tell you what's going on. Stand by.
Okay.
There we go. Let me see. I will hang out for a little bit and talk to the various people here. Hopefully you can hear me. Sorry, I just got to respond to something on Facebook chat that Kat was asking me about, so I want to make sure that they're taken care of. Anyway, so how's it going for me? It has been a long, long, busy week. I went to court with a friend of mine earlier this week. Fortunately, for once, I was not actually under charges. I have to respect that moment. But a friend of mine was in the process of handling at least one of the proceedings for her divorce, and I got to see what has to be the dumbest comment I have heard maybe in the last 2 years. There was a gentleman ahead of us. There was a big sign at the front of the, literally on the court door saying, everyone inside must be wearing a mask. And so I'm there in a mask, everybody else is there in a mask, and this gentleman comes walking in and he's not wearing a mask. And the bailiff looks at him and goes, sir, the judge is going to ask you to wear a mask. And the guy's like, yeah, whatever. Judge comes on. And the judge then proceeds to go, sir, I require that everybody in my court wear a mask for the safety of everyone inside. And the guy looks at the judge and says, but, Your Honor, COVID is a computer virus. And the judge took a deep breath, because apparently they've had way more experience with some of these lunatics than I've had. And says, be that as it may, I still require that you wear a mask in my courtroom. And the bailiff handed him one. And I'm like, if this guy refuses it, I'm going to watch somebody get sent up for contempt of court over a fucking face mask. And I might just have a hard time. I might have to leave to handle how hard I'm going to laugh over this. Yeah, it was a bit of an odd proceeding. So what madness has everyone else been indulging in of late? I have basically spent the entire week dealing with, apparently they have said that there is a decline in the number of babies being born across the United States, but that news has yet to reach the city of Omaha, because we have been fucking inundated at where I work, which is a women's hospital, and 80% of what we do is births. And I mean, literally running, slowly but surely, I'm working this tummy off of me with all the goddamn cardio they have me running around there. In the process, I am also finding a minute here and a minute there to throw a few extra paragraphs onto the second novel that I'm writing, if anybody's interested. For the first one, look for Dave Nesbitt, a novel called Evolution on Amazon. Please feel free to buy a copy. If you see me, I will sign it. I will sign it gratefully. That and prepping to write some music for our other podcast or other video cast, which, if you have not seen it, is called The Lost Blokes. It is myself, the Mad Hat Cat, and my dear friends Dan Carlson and John Kadolf. Not to say that the Mad Hat Cat is not a dear friend. It's just that, well, I knew those two before I knew Cat. Wait, we have Cat. And it's still getting hung up. Let's see.
For you to say something awful.
I'm not saying anything awful about
okay.
you. If you have anything awful to say about you, I will say it to your face. It's a matter of principle. Nope, you're hung up again.
So here is what we are going to do.
Let's talk over there.
Sorry, I'm waiting for the thing. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to move the computer setup. That will probably end the stream since I was the one that started it, but I will start it back up again in just a couple of minutes, probably 5 minutes tops, because 10 we can connect to the internet via Ethernet. I thought I had some stray super duper long Ethernet cords running around, but that would take too long to find them. But I will start it back up again, and we'll try it again. And Dave, if you need to go by 6:30, then you are more than to. Like I said, I think we can probably get said what we want to say. So I am going to put in the chat back in 5, just in case none of that came through. And I will see you all in a few moments. A few minutes, rather. Cross your fingers.
Well, apparently I'm still here. Kat is going to be restarting the stream. I'm going to jump out of the stream in case it winds up being a issue. With that in mind, I look forward to hopefully talking to everybody soon.
Do a heck and check a check.
Check, check.
All right. And then I will do my heck and check a check.
I don't. Did not hear you. I mean, well, they got it on. You got my mic.
I'm hearing me.
Interesting.
There he is. Okay, okay.
I can hear Dave.
Yay! I can hear Lily and I can hear Kat.
Okay.
So life is good.
So there might be a little bit of. I'm actually going to ask you to everyone change places.
Yeah.
We're going to switch with you so that your mic is on this side.
Okay.
No, that would make it worse. Never mind.
Okay. All right. Oh my God.
By the way, this is exactly how Omaha Film Festival goes behind the scenes every year.
Very much, yes.
All right, so we are on an Ethernet connection now, so hopefully it is much more stable. Check. I'm going to go ahead and share the YouTube link again. We are live, aren't we?
It certainly says it looks like we're live, so. I'm going to do anything horribly embarrassing on camera. I mean, more so than usual, but yeah.
Yeah, we're live because it says in broadcast.
Yeah.
Awesome. So good. You want to just like redo the opening?
I don't know. That feels like tempting fate at this point.
Really?
Hmm.
All right. Well, let's just get a move on, little doggies. All right. Dave, tell me, what was the last thing that you remember? Oh, that's why.
There was a truck and a big bright light, and let me see. I think we had actually we're beginning to discuss. Excuse me, I had a brain moments ago. I think we had discussed the use of flowers as a form of kind of underground communication, and aside from that, that was about the last thing that I remember hearing somewhat coherently.
And then I'm not sure, but I think the drugs kicked in.
We're just outside of Barstow when the acid began to take hold.
Do you still? Yeah, could you mute that? Because I'm getting that audio too.
Yeah, in that case, I will just
Mute myself there. And hopefully people can just hear me on your mic. Maybe that's what I meant to do all along. Welcome back, Xerxes. Welcome back, Rick.
Yay!
Rick says the last thing he remembers was the violet. So, hey, why not? Let's talk about that. Hi.
I'm getting the audio from the YouTube page that was open too.
Oh, really? I thought it was just because, I mean, maybe you're right. Is that better?
Dave, can you talk?
For me? I don't know. Can I
Yeah, I
talk?
can hear you. We're good.
Okay.
And I can hear you anyway. So
Yes,
Awesome.
everyone. Thank you infinitely for your
Okay.
patience.
technical difficulties appear to have been resolved.
Hooray!
Hooray! All right. Yes. Thank you for your patience. Okay. So last we were talking about yes, violets, and I was saying that I was going to try and condense, me giving folks context for how I'm coming to this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Just to recap, in case none of it got recorded, I'll be brief, as brief as I can be personally. As she raised her eyebrow in doubt, serious doubt.
Just in.
All right, so what got this particular topic on my mind? Anyway, Pride Month, there's all kinds of yearly conversations that happen around this time anyway.
Right. It's like migration.
Yes, it's like the migration.
The exclusionary lesbians come south for the winter.
Well, and see, it's not just them though. That's the problem.
I know.
I
I think younger queer people who are jumping and be like, no, everyone is valid, and I'm like, that's not really the issue at hand here, and I don't think they really care about that. And so we're all having our own argument, but not actually having the same argument with the other side.
Right. Yeah. It's so we were talking about the boats like passing, and sometimes they just head on crash into each other. Essentially, there's like people having multiple different conversations around the subject. So I do not. What was the channel name of that video we referenced earlier? Yeah. Did a really good video on the like Mogai approach to like gender and sexuality that I think is relevant here. So in short,
I was gonna say just like I didn't even know what that one was.
Yeah.
So just a quick thing. Mogai was like a kind of brief Tumblr moment in which all of the cringe reaction YouTubers like really latched onto because like, yeah, it's fucking pink-haired star gender twat lover.
Oh my God.
And basically what the Mogai community was basically people getting super heckin' specific and at a like individual level as far as what their gender was, what their sexuality was, and in some ways it was useful, and in other ways it was less useful. And I am not going to include one of those less useful things being, and then the cishet saw it, and they all thought we were mentally ill. And well, never mind the fact that, you know, mentally ill being a stigma as is, said the person with like all the money.
So I mean, I think that's a little reductive. It's not just cringe. Like there are some valid, but okay. So it stands for.
Is it validly cringy? It's cringe valid.
So it stands for marginalized orientations, genders, attractions, and identities. I think.
That sounds.
I should have researched this before we started the show, but
this is basically just a primer for folks, anyway.
So it included like it's an approach. It's an approach to queer stuff that that kind of like that the most important thing is that there are terminology for all the different things that people can be. It is an approach that very heavily prioritizes validation and like having that little niche that you occupy. But what the video goes into more is that it ended up being that a lot of words got just created without a need for them.
Yeah.
And it ended up just creating this like cloud of.
Well, and it's interesting that you use the word cloud, because even though I never came across that chunk of the internet myself, having learned a little bit about it ever since watching that video that you sent me, and I've looked at some more things since then, it was kind of a cool idea, because it was like, you know, this crowdsourced wiki for gender and sexuality, and specifically marginalized, that is not cisgender, not heterosexual.
Right. But it also included it like made a more specific point of having it was more explicit about acknowledging aro-ace folks, and it included polyamory under it as well, which I do believe that polyamory challenges heteronormative society in a similar fashion to gay relationships. Not in the same way, and folks that are in polyamorous relationships aren't necessarily subject to homophobia specifically, but the mode of operation of those relationships pushes back in a similar manner.
Yeah. I think I got the same kind of feeling about like learning about the moment of Mogai that I did, although maybe I didn't necessarily have a negative opinion of Mogai, but I had a slightly more actively positive reaction to learning about the term GSRD, and that in the
Never
same
was that in the video?
Recap from last week. I think I mentioned it.
Mhm.
That stands for gender, and in my mind, the S does like a little bit of it's pulling double its weight in the same kind of way that BDSM does.
Okay.
As an acronym, the G is for gender, G is for gender, S is for sex and sexuality. R is for relationships, like relationship styles.
Sure.
So we include DS relationships like that, that's dominant submissive, and then polyam.
Yeah.
Or ethical non-monogamy.
Mm.
I don't want to include the non-ethical non-monogamy in there.
Well, I think with polyamory specifically, there's I guess ethical non-monogamy is a broader term than polyamory.
Well, see, and that's why I did want to make it broader. Kind of same way, like you and I were earlier talking about the alphabet soup and Xerxes last week. You were commenting on like every time the letter gets added, it's just like it gets clumsy and kind of impractical, which I think was another reason, especially kind of intergenerationally, Mogai was causing a kerfuffle, because people were saying that like, no, you're getting too specific. This is muddying the waters too much. How are we going to be able to fight for specific rights as far as legal rights go, and to kind of push forward movements that are going to help us socially. Yeah. Because you've got like legislative rights, and then you've got like social treatment. Because people will say, Black folks have all the same rights that white folks do in the United States, but that doesn't solve the issue.
Right. So we bring up Mogai in this case because specifically, like the word lesbian is used in both contexts. Like there's both uses. The Mogai model, where it's about like validation and accuracy and creating this like taxonomy of relationships and
and like if you feel it, then it's valid.
Yeah. But so there's that context of lesbian, and then there is lesbian in the LGBT model of
specifically women loving women,
or
WLW.
But also there's like there's like an interacting with the world as a lesbian, as another element of it.
Yeah. And there is an interesting history that goes along with all of that. I am going to try and keep to slightly time today, even though we lost a little bit to technical issues. And we can always talk about more again later another day. But originally, the word lesbian comes from the name of an island up in the Mediterranean, I think. The Isle of Lesbos. And from the Isle of Lesbos came the poet Sappho, which you may have also heard the term sapphic. There is also a porn company called Sapphic Erotica that I used to watch back in the day.
Yeah.
They put out good stuff. Like it seems like the ladies involved were actually enjoying themselves and would do that if the camera weren't on. So that was definitely something we were looking for. Dave, you had a thought? Making space for Dave to say things.
What?
Nope, he has nothing to say. All right.
No?
I was just saying hooray for quality porn.
I mean, yeah.
It's so few and far between, let's be perfectly honest.
Sorry about that, Dave. You may have actually said that in my volume for whatever reason. Just wasn't turning up. I don't know.
A lot of technical difficulties today.
Anywho,
sorry.
There is a little bit of like people bickering back and forth online about whether Sappho the poet was lesbian or whether she was bisexual, and there's a number of problems with that. There isn't a whole lot of textual evidence as far as like what her life was like. Mostly what we have to go on is her poetry, in which she wrote some very lascivious shit. Like, she loved the ladies. The other problem with that is you're trying to ascribe words and identities that exist in a time and a place and a culture that are not belonging to her. Like, this is thousands of years. And so we can't really look at it like that. The other problem with that is actually what a lot of people are arguing about with the word lesbian now. Because, like, well, what does it even mean to be lesbian or bisexual? Like, is it really so cut and dry? And I think that's a very interesting and good question as an non-binary person myself.
So, like, under the Mogai model of gender and sexuality, there is a specific thing that the word lesbian would mean. And it specifically, in that context, is referring to a binary woman who is attracted to other binary women.
So do you think the Mogai model would not be in favor of a bisexual lesbian, or would they say that's its own word
exactly the
with its own definition?
The conflict here is based off of that, because the Mogai model says, no, so let's say you just happen to be non-binary and you generally prefer women, right? Just hypothetical. Okay. So under the Mogai model, the word trixic is used in that context, which I have never heard, like, I've maybe heard one time a human being use that to refer to themselves. And obviously that's, like, online, probably more common, but, like, in, like, a real life meet space, I've heard that once. And while I don't really have any problems with it as a label, I think it's fine that there's a word for that. I would challenge you to come up with a situation where it is materially different than the word lesbian. Like in real life, in meet space where people touch grass as Twitters.
In the concept of or in the realm of your own head, and in the realm of people that you are routinely interacting with, or not even routinely interacting with, but interacting with IRL, most of the time, the very fine-grained specifics of those gender and or sexuality identity labels are not going to come up. Unless you are the sort of people who just love talking about that shit. In which case, you will probably talk about it for 4 hours, and everyone else will be like, okay, well, I'm going to go home now. And you're like, okay, bye.
I mean, there are definitely situations where it is important to talk about the differences. Let's say a femme-leaning non-binary person who's attracted to women. There are differences in their life that they experience versus a binary woman, and doubly so when you factor in other, like, intersectional axes. And there is definitely a place for having that sort of approach. But under the alphabet soup model, let's call it, the LGBTQ, etc., that model of labeling of like queer identities, it's more focused on shared, like, political causes and shared, like, material goals and that kind of thing. Like they interact with the world in similar ways. And in that sort of context, the word lesbian is very broad. It's mostly just referring to anyone who is, like, woman or woman adjacent, who experiences attraction for women or women adjacent people, which I don't mean to say that non-binary folks in general are, like, women adjacent, but, like, some folks are who are non-binary.
This is for instance. I was typing it, but I might as well just say it now that I'm in the train. Rick, I think the recycling may be because I'm actually going off the mic in the headset that Lily is wearing. Making it work. We're making it work. So
this is very close.
Oh yeah. Dave, you're
hi. Yes.
kind of a cis-het white guy.
Kind of.
When you hear all of that, can you tell me, like, what the process of your reaction, parentheses with an S, reactions, like what is it that you're thinking / feeling as that stuff is being talked about? Do you just kind of like, does it fade away?
It's something that as I sit here and hear it, and it's the classic example once again of being on the outside of a group looking in and not having, the same sets of reference points. But one of the things that I have noticed is that there is both a long ongoing argument that I've been kind of watching from the outside, from the LGBT community, people who are arguing over whether or not, for example, lesbian is something that is a strict, same-sex attraction, or someone who is primarily attracted. Or the other primary issue, obviously, that's been coming up of late is born, and here's where we use, to start with, a kind of a binary dynamic on it. Born biologically female versus presenting as female. And that is where I tend to see the most massive amount of arguments going on. And that's also the situation where I'm sitting there going, excuse me, I'm just going to take a stick and poke a head in the minefield. Because it's a situation where I'm an interested observer, but I don't have anywhere near the same levels of reference points. But to me, I think that it basically boils down to, and this is just my own personal attitude on the subject, is, are you attracted to that person and the presentation that they have? In which case, on a person-by-person basis, as opposed to a societal basis, that is the most important part of the debate and the argument, is the individual person deciding who it is that they're attracted to and what their relationship with that person is going to be. And I think that that's something that we, as a society, we get so lost in the dynamics of trying to define a specific, that what we don't allow is a personal interpretation for each particular person. And I think that second part is far more important. And, there, to me, especially the further that I get into hanging around members of the trans community or hanging around other elements of the LGBT community, the more that I kind of find myself sitting there going, the actual, for lack of any other way of putting it, the biology and or the determination of genitalia is far less important than the actual attraction to an actual being. And to me, that's my primary feeling. I also know that that's an argument that is not going to fly with elements of the LGBT community, and also, some people get offended by the use of the word. Some people get offended by the use of the word TERF, but from the outside looking in, I think it's an appropriate term.
I just for context, I have no sympathy for anyone who gets offended by the term TERF.
It's a descriptive acronym.
Yeah, so it's a descriptive acronym that doesn't carry, to my mind, a lot of the same sort of baggage that a lot of other terminology that people get offended by. It doesn't have this. It is a literal term that describes somebody's attitude perfectly. I don't see why it is that you get offended about it, because that's literally where you're at. It's trans exclusionary radical feminist.
While we're on the subject here, I also take issue with there's this very common refrain from not just the trans community, but even among cis people too, where it's like, well, they're not really feminists. And I think that gives people an excuse to distance themselves from the transphobia, especially the trans misogyny, that specifically exists within feminist spaces, in the same way that in the same vein of like white centric feminism. There's this reflex to distance yourself from that when somebody points out those problems.
I get that. I totally what you're saying there. I get the same vibe of that, no, they're the bad ones. We stand with trans people. I get the same kind of vibe from that as no, we're the good white people. We don't stand with those people.
It's the same. It's the same.
But then
not literally. They're different.
Kind of just wanting to cut off the conversation rather a bit like, but things are fine now because we're all great, right?
No.
Like, no, we actually we have to acknowledge the bad shit.
Right.
Well, and in addition to the people going, we're not like the bad white people. There's also the people who do actively, like, they're tired of hearing that white supremacy is a thing that continues on to this day, and we actually don't want to have everybody telling us that it was our ancestors' fault that black people are having a rough go of it. Like, it's not the greatest thing, no. Like, you have to acknowledge your history. For one thing, to not just like slap the people in the face who have suffered because of that history, but also you can't really grow and move on from shit if you're just ignoring it. Take it from someone who's been in therapy a long time. You cannot really move on from shit until you have acknowledged it and process it healthily.
Well, and also importantly, wanting to treat those things like they're a thing that happened in the past and that we're good now and it doesn't happen anymore.
We're good now, right?
Makes you very resistant to acknowledging how the things that happened in the past directly led to the way that things are today.
Well, I think that that's an element, whether we're dealing, it's a situation where, depending upon the group that has been marginalized legally in the past, because societally we still marginalize a shitload of people. But I think that the argument that a lot of people make in regards to saying we're cool now, right, is, hey, we got rid of all the legal roadblocks for you guys to have the life you want to lead, so we're cool now, right? No, what we have to do is sit down as people who were and still are members of the ruling class. And sit down and go, you know what? Ripple effects are real. The butterfly effect is not just something that affects weather. It's something that goes all the way through a society. LGBT people, African Americans, and other marginalized communities throughout the whole of the United States are still going to be suffering from the ongoing effects of things that happened hundreds of years ago. And I think that it's time that we, I was joking around earlier about my big fear about doing this whole month worth of episodes is that it turns into Dave, cis-het white dude explains everything. But coming from that perspective,
I don't know if you heard it earlier, but when Lily and I were talking earlier about this, I was like, I kind of feel bad that I'm putting Dave in this position where he feels like he doesn't necessarily have a voice of authority on the matter, or any skin in the game. But on the other hand, I feel like I am continuing on with the spirit of why I wanted to start doing this show, and referencing back to what I originally wanted to call it, Let's Get Uncomfortable. I don't want to make you uncomfortable, but I'm glad that I'm making you uncomfortable.
I want to make you uncomfortable.
but it's a matter of circumstances where we were talking about discussing, a couple of months ago, we were just talking about discussing feminist issues. And my primary issue was that I don't know enough feminist theory to be able to speak to it with any degree of feeling like I'm informed on the subject, the way a lot of other people are. So when I'm in those circumstances, I prefer to sit back, listen, and learn, rather than sit there and go, hey, I'm on the outside looking in, but sometimes the outside looking in perspective is important. Because we all lock ourselves into our own little worlds. And to me, it's a matter,
as long as you're waiting for the invite, or if you have legitimate questions, like, and by you I mean outside of whatever marginalized group we're talking about.
But the more that I've been growing into knowing people within the LGBT community, the trans community, various other areas, I feel that I have skin in the game simply because of the fact that these people are my friends. That makes that shit real important to me. On the other hand, it also makes me feel as though when I sit there and speak about it, I have to be aware of the fact that I'm coming from a perspective of relative ignorance. So I always make a preface saying, from the outside looking in, here's what I'm seeing. Now tell me what I'm getting right and what I'm getting wrong. Specifically, what I'm getting wrong. That's kind of important, because then I can kind of alter my perspective and make it work a little bit better.
Well, and of course, like I gave us a pause here for a second so that I could ask you, because this is the kind of conversation, when you and I were just talking for about 5-10 minutes straight there, Mo Guy this and Lesbian Twitter that. I'm interested to see what that looks like to people who don't have skin in the game, or at the very least, I almost want to say that sometimes people getting involved with shit on Twitter, like, nope. Whatever was going through my mind, it's gone now. Don't know what I was going to say. Definitely not something that would land me in hot water. 200 subscribers down the road. No, I'm too small to be canceled.
I'm looking forward to all of us
I
getting.
might be dogpiled on Twitter, but like, I don't check that up that often. What's it gonna do?
Looking at my backlog of live journal stuff and canceling.
But I'm interested to see what that looks like on the outside, and I'm coming from the perspective that I myself have never used the word lesbian to describe myself. I've never used that as a label. I have frequently used the words lesbicious and lesbitronic since high school. And like over the course of my adolescence, teenagerdom into adulthood, I went from, oh, I must be a lesbian, or, oh no, wait, okay, there's just a lot of attractive people in the world. Okay. And just women and other feminine type people happen to be the ones that I notice maybe a little bit more often. Okay, I'm bi. All right, bi works.
Right.
Went away from that for a while because it started turning away the lesbians that I was trying to date, and never could successfully. And for more than a few weeks. To be fair, they suffered me for several weeks sometimes. And it was also attracting the kind of attention that I did not want with regard to straight people, not just men, actually, not just straight men. Sometimes it was straight women who, basically just wanted to have a homoerotic experience, but like basically made it okay within their otherwise monogamous relationship, or even if they had an open relationship with their husbands, they were always married. Oh, young cat, what were you doing? Anyway, went from bi to like, okay, you know what, queer is actually kind of a better word. And then like at some point I kind of explicitly, consciously started thinking of myself as, oh, hey, I'm not actually a woman. Sort of in the same way that I had that thought, like, oh, I'm attracted to the ladies. It's interesting. So, and then in the last few years, I've kind of been reclaiming that word bisexual, because, damn it, you took it away from me. It felt fine. And now it also has the added benefit of me being a non-binary bisexual, and that fucks with people, and I enjoy
for some reason. Like,
but I don't say that just to be an asshole. Like, for one thing, it does make sense because there is a little bit of cognitive dissonance that happens, a little bit of the swirly twirly buffering symbol that happens when you hear that phrase. But I think that's good because, and I know that not everybody thinks like me, I think it's good to be challenged on a routine, if not daily basis, as far as like what your ideas are for shit. No, it's not great to be thrust into unreality way too often, because then you do go mad, not in the fun way, not in the Mad Hat kind of way, but like in the, oh God, I really need help kind of way. But anyway, so I am not going to lie, this conversation, I feel semi-involved because I am one of those sapphic type people, that even though I have never had a long-term relationship with a woman before, not for lack of trying, But like I was. It was not for lack of trying. That's what I'm trying to say. It was not for lack of trying. I had my heart broken many times by straight girls who just wanted to try some shit out, which is fine. We're young, it happens. And from other bi folks who, you know, ended up saying, actually, I don't trust you to hang around your guy friends because you're not solely lesbitronic. I'm like, but you're bi, so why did I talk about a buffering symbol appearing on someone's head? But yeah, basically what I'm trying to say is, like, yes, I do have some baggage in this area. I am bitter that I never really managed to break into the lesbian community in Omaha. And yes, even though we have a population of less than 500,000 people, there is in fact a lesbian community here.
Like a big web of this person has slept with this person, and like it's
I mean, you guys have seen the L Word from the 90s and the early aughts, right?
All I can say is,
I love Alice. Like, they did some horrible things with her, and she's kind of problematic, but I like Alice. Poor little bisexual being.
I did not like how the Old Word handled trans men.
Yeah, no, I didn't love that either. I have not been able to finish the old series because of that, which is saying something, because I am a completionist. I will finish the series. But yeah, like, back then when I was in high school, like, gender questioning was not very widespread talked about yet.
Yeah.
It has, like, absolutely exploded thanks to social media. And I think that's an amazing thing, although we've rushed into a lot of issues, for better or for worse, we have, and that's where we are. But back then, like, okay, I want queer community, because I am very not straight.
Right.
Where do I go? The lesbian community, because, like, yes, the gay boys and later on men will be in musicals with me, but they don't necessarily want to hang out with me. They'll also do musical karaoke with me. But again, like, where was I trying to look for queer community? It was within the lesbian community.
Right.
Because most of the other people that I knew who claimed to live bisexual were in what other people saw as heterosexual relationships. Although even if I didn't, even if I wasn't a non-binary person, I would still say that my relationship with the person I've been with for 13 years, there's a cis man, I would not, it may appear, and he may feel it's a heterosexual relationship from his end. From my end, it's very gay. I have never had a heterosexual attraction to anyone, regardless of their gender, regardless of what bits and bobs they do or do not have. It's very gay, baby. It's very gay. And that's kind of bringing into this idea of, like, you know, like, what is language? Is it descriptive? Is it prescriptive? Sometimes gay does not mean homosexual man, and it doesn't always just mean homosexual. It's also now in many areas of many queer communities synonymous with queer. Like, it's not just a sexual and or romantic attraction. It's a vibe that you're putting out. It's your culture. It's your language. And I feel I use queer and gay kind of synonymously, and I feel they feel pretty accurate.
Yeah, I would agree.
Now, if I were going to go into a courtroom and you know, give some kind of testimony related to an LGBTQ rights sort of case, I would just say that I'm bisexual.
Well,
because in that context, that's all they need to know. It gets the meaning across rather quickly. That reminds me, I have a D over here, and I think it's for dumb thing someone said in a courtroom, and that was a story from Dave, so I want to make sure I say that.
I told it to the audience, but you had already stepped out. But
Okay.
I was in court earlier this week with a friend of mine who was in the process of handling their divorce proceedings, and literally on the door there's a big sign saying that masks must be worn while in court. And so we're all sitting there and we're all masked up, except for this one guy who's sitting there, no mask on. And the bailiff looks at him and goes, mask. And the guy's like, ain't doing it. I'm like, okay. Judge shows up, and the judge looks at him and goes, sir, I do make it mandatory for everybody in my court to wear a mask for the safety of everyone in here. And the man says, and I quote, but sir, COVID is a computer virus. And like literally, that look on Lily's face was exactly the look on my face. I'm just like,
What did the judge say?
I shifted from like, I mentally shifted from like fifth gear into reverse. Yeah. And the judge looked at him, and apparently the judge has been dealing with people who have this sort of issue way more than I have. And I see a lot of people in ER trying to deny COVID issues.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Did he cut out for you as well?
Hmm?
Did he cut out for you as well?
No.
No?
Okay. So the judge, I think I work at a hospital. I'm in the ER. I see a lot of people who are trying to ignore COVID. Thing, and the judge has probably dealt with them way more than I have. And the judge said, be that as it may, sir, this is my court, and it is mandatory for you to wear a mask. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm about to see a guy get hauled off for contempt of court over a mask.
But they don't want to live their lives in fear.
Yeah. Trust me, with the size of that bailiff, I would have been in fear of him, just as a matter of principle.
Yeah, I'm not keen to pick a fight with a bailiff or a judge.
Yeah,
in any circumstance.
Yeah, the only like real true life sentence is if you decide to keep arguing with the judge day after day over a contempt of court case. It eventually got sorted out, but in the meanwhile, I'm just sitting there watching my friend seething because she just wants to be done with all of this madness. And it was just, I'm just sitting there going, COVID is a computer virus. And all I can picture is like 3 days from now, I'm going to be found dead of an aneurysm while my brain tries to figure out where the fuck he came up with that idea.
I mean,
it ties into the other one. Actually, the one that was somewhat less amusing, but kind of weird as well, and kind of scary, was being in ER and hearing this woman screaming from an ER bay about how it was that all of the nurses and the techs were fucking liars and this and that. And I'm standing by the door in case I have to help restrain somebody. And finally they get done. The woman stalks off and all of this. And I'm like, and I walk over to the tech and I'm like, so what the hell was that all about? It's like, she's got a raging staph infection. We were going to just give her a intramuscular antibiotic. But she wasn't going to take it because she was absolutely convinced that we were going to vaccinate her at the same time with the antibiotic. And I'm just sitting there like, yeah, and so the tech looks at me and goes, yeah, we've already got the bedding pool started. We're wondering what her temperature is going to be the next time we see her, 104 and climbing, or 95 and descending as we take her to the morgue. I mean, like, this is the madness that has been going on behind the scenes for you.
Hospital humor is a little sharp for me.
Yeah, it's, if you ever want to find out, like, I keep saying that there's like, you know, dark humor, black humor, Irish humor, singularity humor, and then underneath that is first responder humor. Like, those guys, just to survive dealing with all the stuff they have to deal with on a daily, you kind of have to be able to develop an incredible. My favorite example of this, I might have told you about it, I'm not sure, but a friend of mine who was a first responder sent me a picture like 3 days after the Bataclan theater attack in France, where the terrorists attacked a show by the Eagles of Death Metal. And some inside, who was a first responder inside the theater, was up on the balcony taking pictures of the interior before they moved anything. So there are still bodies on the floor.
Right.
They're basically so that way they can track all of the evidence and figure out what happened. And underneath there, somebody had put in the caption, "Killer show, dude." Holy shit!
Oh no!
Oh my god! And you know, it's like one of those. I introduced Kat to a tradition that Erica von Kampen and I started a few years ago, of watching a particular video, so that way we can never be too sanctimonious. Because The moment we get a little too full of ourselves, we look at each other and say, you watched that video too, multiple times, and laughed every time. So no, you can't be that up on your high horse. Erica gets to do that to me way more than I get to do it to her. But at some point, if the opportunity presents itself, we will subject it to you as well.
Okay, please. I welcome it.
But yeah, the dark humor element, I mean, humor is, always has been, and will continue to be a shock absorber for the pain of dealing with day-to-day life. And I think the depths and darkness of your humor is pretty much determined on what it is you do as a day job. I think that does have an impact.
Right. I mean, essentially, it's what skills do you need to be able to exist day to day without losing your mind? Yeah.
Yeah. It's all, so therefore I don't, okay, for example, I don't deny first responders their particular sense of humor. If your sense of humor is basically dictated by the idea of punching down at people constantly, I will look down on you. If your sense of humor is a means of deflecting the pain of having to deal with the rather harsh realities that other people inflict on you, hey, you know what? I am right beside you the whole length and breadth of the way.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm just sitting here admiring Kat going over their phone right now and, figuring out what it is they're trying to do.
Audio.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Radio.
Radio killed the video star in this case? Audio killed the video star. Something like that. All right, let's see if we get proper audio.
I can't hear anything. That's the problem with what's going on here, is that I can't hear shit. For whatever reason, the audio just suddenly cut out on me. And I can't hear it on these headphones. Can't hear it on those headphones. I'm gonna freaking die. Make it no. Oh, that make it better.
Sorry. Somebody posted a video of a song entitled "I Hate to Wake Up Sober in Nebraska," and I'm like, I am absolutely.
Yeah, that's the mood. Are we back?
No, I would just continue on.
Does Cat exist?
You know vaguely where I was going after the. Oh, I'm bitter. That was the end of that story. I'm bitter.
Okay, I'm going to step away from
I was never able to find queer community when I was young, specifically in high school and early college age, and I may or may not, in my own brain, kind of tie that up with me getting into some not so great situations with folks who may or may not have sexually assaulted me. I may have that kind of tied up in my own head. That being said, I do not have any animosity, conscious anyway, conscious and exacted IRL in meat space or online, against people who use the label of lesbian, or hell, people who use the label bi lesbian. And I mean, honestly, for the most part, like you said earlier, there is room for discussion amongst ourselves, and once we have some rights, or in the first place, whatever, and we are more socially acceptable within our larger communities, then I would love for us to be able to do gender and queer studies, not just gender queer studies. That's a whole different. That's a specific branch under the umbrella. Because you know how trees grow under umbrellas.
Incidentally, it's not anything to do with the queer branch of that. It's entirely within the gender part of it.
But yeah, like there's
language is weird.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I keep coming back to at the end of all of this. It's like you all have some good points. In a practical sense, however, I really wish that we could like pause for a moment and like I don't want to say like agree to disagree necessarily, but
acknowledge that we're using the same word to mean different things.
Yeah. Well, and hell, you don't even have to do that. Like, hey, if you really need to, just make it the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Wait, no, how does that go?
Yeah, that's the saying.
Okay, so look, marginalized group over here, marginalized group over here. Yes, we don't have to like each other. We don't have to agree on every goddamn little thing. What we do know is that to the general population, we are not heteronormative. Therefore,
right.
And even if people don't like actively hate on us in public, it still affects people, whether or not people are like if we were to say walk through the park holding hands and looking very romantic and affectionate together, and someone were to like pass by on their bike, be an asshole and say dykes, we're not going to chase that down after him and say, oh no, actually I am a super gay non-binary bisexual, and Lily would say whatever Lily would say.
Right, and I'm bi, so technically that phrase is incorrect. Use the correct slur, please, sir.
See, but at the same time, I also know several non-binary people.
Yeah.
Who identify with the word dyke.
Sure, fair enough.
And like that, that feels like them, and it feels like their experience and how the world treats them. So I get that.
Yeah.
But and
it's
of course,
important here.
Exactly.
All of these are reclaimed slurs.
Yeah.
All of these are language other people have used to define us that we have reappropriated to define ourselves.
The other portion of that, I think I forgot to mention it earlier, is, and I could be wrong here. It's been known to happen, but from everything that I've ever read, from peer-reviewed documents of linguistic and queer history sources, lesbian was always lesbian began more as an adjective than it did as a noun, than it did as an identity label. Because it more was used to refer to a lesbian relationship, lesbian romance,
right?
Rather than this is a lesbian A, this is lesbian B, and together they are the lesbos. But more, it was more of an adjective,
right? And
it wasn't probably until like the late 19th century, early 20th century that lesbian became a little bit more of a noun, but it was also still kind of considered an adjective, and kind of working its way up into like just before the sexual revolution and the kind of spark of the gay rights movement, which many see as Stonewall. There were other things that happened, yada yada yada. We'll talk about it another day. But like right around the 60s and 70s, there was a lot going on as far as feminism as a political ideology and a political movement, trying to find to bring about more equality and more equity for women, and kind of in the same way that the suffragettes in the United States, I won't say like, who cares? They're dead. They can't at me on Twitter. They kind of threw black women under the bus.
Kinda is an understatement.
It really is. Yeah, no, they threw black women under the bus, and not all of them. I would say not all of them did so viciously. I think, but again, we can't necessarily judge them in terms of. But there were some suffragettes who explicitly said, like, no, I will never ever fight as hard for a black woman as I will for a white woman. Like it doesn't concern me. Let them figure it out. And that's the thing that, again, we should acknowledge.
Right.
We should acknowledge that it happened, and that doesn't erase the other stuff that person did. This is Anthony, among others.
Mm-hmm.
But like you need to have a full and complete picture of it,
Right.
and it doesn't have to be like this person good, this person bad, because take it from me, binaries for the most part are bullshit. and I completely understand.
Mm-hmm.
In everyday life, we kind of just go about with yes, no, this, that, good, bad, success, failure, because it makes shit easy.
Right.
Now, of course, this may also have something to do with the fact we are a very productivity-oriented, capital-driven society.
I mean, the problem might be capitalism.
Oh my God. That's right. Even if this were a popcorn episode, we would have made it back around to that.
To be clear, capitalism isn't the only problem. I believe that racism would still exist if capitalism
Oh,
didn't,
absolutely.
but they are very in bed with each other.
Well, and if you, not that there's much to see there right now, but if you have gone to the WordPress for the way that I have described the Party for Prosperity and Supervillainy is we are here to break down and dismantle all of the worst parts of capitalism and all of the isms that it brings out in us and amplifies. Because yes, absolutely, humans do be racist though, and we have been for far and away and long and forever. That wasn't exactly a sentence, but
no,
we're gonna say that
it wasn't, but it was okay.
We're gonna say it. But yes, it amplifies and it drives apart the smaller groups that, with our powers combined, could form an actual force to be reckoned with, as far as gaining social acceptance and legislative action that would, hopefully help improve. Though again, I'm not saying we have to tear the entire system down.
I mean,
I think we could.
Ultimately, capitalism pushes towards the atomization of identities because it's easier to market that way. But the atomization of identities also undermines our ability to make any kind of meaningful change in the world.
Which is kind of a weird thing. And Dave, I really wish that I could hear. Oh God! Seriously, no. Okay.
We'll put a delay.
As soon as I said, "Gosh, I wish I could hear you, Dave," my phone suddenly had sound again. One moment. Jesus, Mary.
I will. Well, Kat sorts that out, and they're handling it.
Why though? Why?
One of my bigger issues with the entire notion of capitalism is that it basically reduces everything to a monetization in terms of how we interact with people. To me, that basically, I don't know. I sit there and think, wait a minute, am I supposed to view this person as a 50-cent interaction, $1 interaction, a dime interaction? It seems as though what it does do is it depersonalizes and dehumanizes us in terms of quantifying us rather than qualifying us.
Oh, definitely.
Richard, yeah, you're absolutely on target. All I could picture is like Kat sitting there and accidentally they stepped on the delay pedal that they had forgot that they had left on the phone.
Right.
And really big echo.
You know, all of those incredibly complicated electronic musical accessories that I own, beyond just the basic amp.
Yeah.
God, that was so fucking it's so weird.
It's very funny.
I think I know earlier I said I wasn't blaming you for all of this weird technological timtomfoolery. And I'm not blaming you now. I'm not blaming you now. Or perhaps Jill Jan foolery?
I don't know. It's fine.
All right.
nonsense.
What's the well, I try to remember where I was at, and also try to get us round back again to finishing up sort of Rick and Foreign Space. He has sent me a tweet. But how though? Oh no. See, now it's all in my mentions repeatedly. Everybody keeps liking this response to something I said, which was basically just like, you may want to have a look at this video that talks about prescriptive and descriptive language.
Right.
I will not try to say you're wrong or anything like that. I'm just going to leave this here. And then one of the responses was, lesbian isn't an umbrella term. Bi lesbians aren't real. If you're looking for an umbrella term for WLW, which is women loving women, then sapphic is right there. And I don't love that for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
I understand where that person might have been coming from. It's also a little depressing to see how many people liked that response. I really need to turn that off.
Well, so like that person, presumably, like in this context, the word lesbian is being used in the prescriptive sense, and it has a very defined, this is what it is and this is what it isn't sort of way. And like ultimately though, any language we use is an umbrella term. There's no like, if you are using a descriptive model of language, and that language is a tool that we use to describe things that we see in the world and approximate things that we think in our head, and
that's the biggest thing, approximate.
Right, and just sort of like ballpark a concept that we're trying to communicate, then there's not really such a thing.
Because we haven't mastered telepathy yet.
Right.
So we have to use words out of our stupid fucking faces.
So, and because we are reducing our thoughts and the world around us to these concepts that we're throwing around, to these like sounds that we make with our mouth, all language is necessarily descriptive. And in that model, like in that way of looking at language, the word lesbian can mean different things.
I know. That's super fucking up. That's bananas. It's the whole fruit salad.
Right.
The thing that Rick sent to me, I'm going to hold it up for twofold reasons, if I can actually get it to work. Aha! For two reasons. One, you may follow me on Twitter at the Mad Hat Cat. That's cat with two T's. So if it helps you to remember, it can be cat. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm not on there very much, but I do post fun stuff, a lot of things related to cute animals and animation. And sometimes I have very deep thoughts. It's amazing that I just like to send off into the void.
So I do want to address that. So I would say that language in all cases, both for yourself and for others, like is, Sure. Like I would say that in each case, language is descriptive. Like you are describing your thoughts, you're describing external things, like whether it is internal or external, frankly, is irrelevant, because like ultimately we don't have a way of communicating the like platonic ideal of this thing.
As in relating to Plato. Yeah? As opposed to...
Yeah, the platonic ideal, sorry.
Yeah. No, I mean...
That Plato.
I knew where you were going. I just wanted to make sure we differentiated, as opposed to like platonic love.
Right. No, it's the... I mean, that's actually the same origin. Right.
The book that Rick very, very nicely sent is actually an excellent good read. It is by a wonderful person called Judith Butler, and the book is entitled Gender Trouble. And I love it when super exclusionary lesbians or super exclusionary straight cis women who consider themselves feminists quote Judith Butler in regards to things like lesbian means this, woman means this. I'm like, you haven't kept up with Judith, have you? Because Judith these days it's kind of just like, yeah,
Yeah.
sure, pronouns, man. What are they? Use any and all. They is good. She's good. You know, I grew up kind of thinking of myself as a woman and as a lesbian, and I still kind of feel that way, but I also think I'm some kind of non-binary. Fucking love Judith. She's let's say has continued to just get more cool with age. Just like a wonderful bottle of wine. And this weirdly enough, only like $12 at Hy-Vee. Yeah, you'd think that it would be like super pricey and therefore kind of exclusionary, and you know would be around at fancy wine and cheese parties. But no, you don't have to be a super duper academic person to read Judith Butler, or to listen to interviews with them for that matter. Very down to earth.
Yeah, like I have not actually read any of her work.
I've only ever read Gender Trouble. And actually, that reminds me of something I'm just going to say so that Dave and you can hold me to it. I actually kind of want to do a little bit of a series reading things that I have either only ever read once, like kind of skimmed, or never fucking read at all. But it's about things that I talk about all the time. Yeah. So I would like to do a series about Karl Marx's major work. Yes, specifically. Well, I don't know. I kind of want to like look at all of them and like, hey, I'm reading this for the first time. Read it along with me. Here are my thoughts about this with like zero fucking context. And Dave, what you said earlier about like, I'm not that well read on feminist theory. By the way, I think I've lost audio again. So if you respond, I'm going to have to like stick my head in the ear. But I was like, yeah, but at the same time, like you can still observe things without having half a PhD or a PhD in it. Like, yes, I love ContraPoints and Philosophy Tube, hence half a PhD, full PhD in philosophy. But that doesn't mean that you can't observe things around you. I mean, that's where philosophy comes from in the first fucking place, is people observing things about the world, observing things about the way that they experience them, and then basically writing it down and applying, or like creating a logic for that observation in a way that you can share it with other people.
But I mean, but just like language philosophy is descriptive. Like, we're describing a real phenomena that exists, and we're trying to put it in a context that makes sense to us. So like anyone can do that. Anyone can ask these questions. Now, there's something to be said about expertise when it comes especially to science, but like when it comes to science, like
climate change, please listen to scientists.
Get your vaccine.
Get your vaccine.
If you can.
I understand if you can't. That's
you know, that's not really probably your fault. But like, I don't want to get microchipped by Bill Gates is not, no.
That's,
That is not valid.
To me,
it's not valid.
I will not a MOGI model to getting vaccines. You 100% not valid.
Remind me to share a video with you that I saw yesterday regarding vaccines and other weirdness and people's reaction to it, because like, why are people becoming magnetized? And I just stopped and I went, oh God.
Magnetized.
Yeah, I'll show it to you, and you can revel in the stupidity. To me, there is an element of when I'm sitting around and talking about the notions of feminism, I don't know enough feminist theory, but my entire idea is that I too am a feminist, in the idea that despite whatever your gender may be, binary, non-binary, whatever, you should have an equality under the law and in the eyes of society. And you know, I'm simplifying it to a great deal. I think that that's it at its most basic. You know. I'm
okay. I don't want to talk. You're very cute.
Like there's no fucking reason my laptop won't charge anymore. My phone decides
And obviously your
to
phone
go
is set us up.
on audio holidays. Like, oh yes, my phone is absolutely. But fun fact, when that said Queen of Webs earlier, earlier it said Queen of Webs ampersand the Mad Hat Cat. I was gonna put Queen of Webs plus the Mad Hat Cat because that's just how I write and sometimes. Yeah. And then I was like, wait, no, that sounds like I'm shipping us. Hang on. If there are cat Lily shippers in the audience, I'm not gonna. Although I do have to tell you that that ship will also be in competition with the Mad Hat Cat and Molly Oblivion ship.
Oh.
That one has a few years on it.
Why in conflict?
That's true.
There's no need for conflict.
Remember when we were talking about ethical non-monogamy earlier? It applies to your ship too.
It does.
Yeah.
Also, you can't have a real love triangle without at least one queer person.
I mean, we're all gamers.
So stop calling it a love triangle unless it's actually a fucking triangle, which.
True. Yeah, because she makes.
After surviving a host of AC and being amongst a bunch of gamer poly,
that's a triangle, and this is a heart because I love you. I really wish that I could hear what Dave is saying. No, it's
in summer tacos later.
Wait. Hang on. Wait.
Looks like it's good.
Switch around. Okay.
Right.
Oh my god, this is so rough.
This is very 1920s radio. I can say key things that came to mind are, after having survived a number of E Street parties and hung out with a bunch of, literally there was a group in LiveJournal called Bi Poly Gamer Kinky Geek. I think there were a couple other ones added on there. But there was such a thing as like if you're a group of poly, etc. gamers, then love dodecahedron is a real thing.
Right.
You can throw that one in there. And then also, to continue on the conversation at some other point, I'm just saying tacos or dim sum or something later on this evening is always a possibility. But,
let's do it.
Yeah, I'm in for this.
Okay.
Well, I think we should wrap it up about now.
You take wrap up.
Yes, I'll bring you back over in a moment. So thanks for hanging in there, those who were watching live. So we haven't had like this much trouble in a while. But you know what? I'm just gonna, since we're about to break up with StreamYard anyway. Oh God, sorry, StreamYard. I didn't want you to find out like this, but we're through.
At least you didn't text them.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
But I'm just gonna go ahead and blame StreamYard since we're breaking up with StreamYard anyway.
It's not. It's totally.
it's not me. It's you.
Yeah.
So pack things. Get out. I found a new lover, and they allow me to pull up my screen shares with no problem. They allow me to use cool overlays without charging me a whole bunch of extra money every month. You won't even let me stream beyond 720p. So that's all I have to say about that.
Audio output.
Yeah, also that. Oh my God.
Fuckery with the phone.
Just absolute fuckery. I've literally got 5 pairs of earbuds and or headphones down here.
Yeah.
And like just awful.
One earbud.
Yeah, that one. See, that would be fine if it was working, but this doesn't have USB-C.
Oh man. Comedy there.
Anyway, I am going to say, have not talked to Dave about this, and so I'm springing it on you now, just like I sprung it on StreamYards. I'm going to say for certain right now that there will not be a popcorn episode next week. There might be if we manage to get our shit with OBS figured out this weekend / early into the beginning of the week. But in anticipation of fuckery being, 10 times what it was today, I'm going to say there will be no episode, but I will still upload a little something. And that other little something that I was going to upload while I was being kidnapped the other week, I am still also going to upload that. Speaking of programs that I'm breaking up with, I'm also breaking up with Power Director, and I'm going over to DaVinci Resolve. So, yeah. So you will still get a little something, even if we do not do our popcorn episode. If we do a popcorn episode, I don't know. I'm probably going to make Dave suffer still and make it about gay shit. It's like, all right, let's talk about queer representation in cartoons in the last 10 years and how awesome it is. Only the good times we will speak of, or maybe we'll talk about that one Daria movie where a college-aged girl hit on Jane during art camp, basically. Was there a little eye wriggle there? But you know what I do love about that situation, even though it totally played into the predatory bisexual vibe. Jane doesn't say, when she pushes her away after she kisses her, she's like, I didn't know you were gay. She says, I didn't know you were bi. Because Jane Lane is a person who acknowledges that someone can be not monosexual.
Yeah.
So go Jane, even though the writers gave you kind of a shitty arc there. But yeah, we'll talk about mostly the good stuff. And what was the other thing? Yeah. In addition to me pimping my Twitter that I'm on maybe twice a week, I would also like to say that down below you may find the Discord on which you can see show announcements like, technological difficulties, or I'm ill, going to die, or Lily punched me in the face, because I don't remember why you were going to punch me in the face earlier. Oh, I was telling you to keep me in line about something, probably keep it brief.
I forgot.
You probably would have punched me for brevity.
No.
In any case, she didn't punch me though. That's the important thing. The important thing is that she did not punch me. Things are still good, and so never fear, cat Lily shippers. Although just again, like I said, be prepared to have a rumble with the cat Molly shippers. The other thing that I was going to say was you can go to the Discord. You can find stuff on there. I am still continuing to compile stuff for highlights episodes and for show notes, so that you can find links to all of the various and sundry things that we reference on here. That goes for books by perhaps Judith Butler. That goes for television series and movies. That goes for I don't know, sapphic poetry. Where you can go. Where can you find sapphic poetry? At your local library. That's right.
Say your local library.
I mean, hopefully your local. All right, that's the new rule. You can't call yourself a lesbian unless you have a hardbound copy. You can make it vegan leather if you like. A hardbound copy of the complete works of Sappho.
All right, that's pretty interesting. Yeah.
What was that, Dave?
So it's an interesting firm rule, but it's totally workable. So yeah.
Yeah. No, but seriously, for you know my rule. Okay, just be nice to each other, y'all. Okay, we're going through the shit with each other, and in the end, we're all in it together to take down capitalism, and also to learn and grow and be better humans together. And there are discussions to be had. Most of the time, it's only worth it it's mostly only worth it to do it in meet space with people that you know personally, that you have already some kind of an established connection with. Otherwise, it's just static.
Right.
And I have been guilty of trying to jump into conversations like that, and like, all right, this is my one person a day that I will try to reach out to. Even that's maybe not so good.
Don't feed the voracious Discord machine.
Don't.
We say as we make controversial online.
Yes, exactly. Luckily, there are only, last time I checked, 157 subscribers, which brings me around to the other point that I wanted to say. You sneaky little buggers. You bumped me past 150 and out of 157. You cheeky things, you. I see you there. I see you there. It's interesting how if you generally put out a thing almost every week, that people stick around and maybe share it with other people. I don't know what you're doing. Maybe it's just all porn dots, but I'm happy to have you here as long as you are producing the kind of porn dot quality stuff like I would expect from Sapphic Erotica. That's another website that I should link. No, this video is not sponsored, but if they would like to be, you can get in touch with me by going down to my socials in the description.
Or just badly pining from across.
Yes, no, actually, that would be the appropriately lesbitronic thing to do. We pine.
Yeah,
we pine.
Mostly pining. Very little actual flirting.
There is occasional flirting, but it's mostly
just making the like.
We sit on windowsills and like clutch at our clothing and just sigh heavily. It's a hard life those Sapphic folks live. All right, everyone. Dave, thank you again for continuing to come here with this. I know it might feel like you don't have too much to say, or hopefully you don't feel like you're getting talked over, because I do actually want you here, and I do actually want to hear the things that you have to say when my flipping headphones will allow me to. Sorry, it's a little loud. And I am also really happy to have the folks who keep coming back in the live chat, and the folks who are mysteriously subscribing without contributing in the live chat or leaving comments. I'm not saying you have to, but if you would like to, I like to look at pretty analytics.
Yeah, and is line go up?
Wait, what?
Line go up. Line go up.
Line go up.
Yeah.
Do not.
Line go up.
Look, I didn't understand.
It's not an entire sentence.
That would be something that I do all the time. Thank you very much. I speak in complete sentences, sentences that have a beginning, a middle, and
a trailing off.
Yeah,
kind of
something.
There's
this chip clip over there, and I just remember that it's magnetized, and so if I tried to lift it from the top of my electric fireplace, it would give some slight resistance. What were we doing?
You dork.
Dave, hi!
Hi!
Oh my God, I don't know why you people put up with me, but I'm glad you do. And you don't have to leave a comment, but I would love it if you did. I love the pretty analytics. You don't have to join the Discord, but I would love to have you there. There's cute things and fabulous media recommendations for things that you may or may not have seen yet or heard. And I hope you join us next time. I'll say on Twitter and on the Discord whether or not there will actually be a video next week, or rather a live episode, and what that episode will be called, and what we will be discussing.
We have to get all the pertinent details. So yeah,
yes, all those things. And do remember what we always say. You gotta hydrate, have a little brekkie, take a little break, get yourself a little bevy, be nice to your brain, and find 10 minutes at least to do something that you truly, truly love, just for the joy of it, and then take another 10 minutes later on to do absolutely nothing. Not sitting there thinking about all the things that you need to do later, just sitting and doing nothing. Even if it's, just coughing repeatedly.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I feel bad that you're coughing so much. I hope you're not allergic to me.
No, I'm good. It's just congestion.
That would be the heckin' worst. Yes, Rick, squirrel. It is. I literally
said squirrel earlier today when Lily was in my backyard.
There was a squirrel.
There were two squirrels.
There was.
They were chasing each other and being
Especially
like they're just like kind of little shits to each other.
Yeah, very rude.
All right, everybody, please have a lovely weekend or work weekend, whatever awaits you, and we shall see you next time. Where's that broadcast?